It's gonna get real ugly.
You're listening to episode 153 of PHP Ugly, your weekly dose of developer grumblings and piss-offiness. With me today, a man high, as in Colorado high, Thomas Rideout.
Hello.
And I am your other host in lovely San Diego, Eric Van Johnson. We're a man short. We're a man short. Man down.
Gallivanting around at PHP Tech.
He's hanging with the real titans of PHP, while we are here merely faking it. As I'm here, they actually sent me a picture. Let me cut over to that here. Hold on. Oh, that didn't work. Hold on one second. Daddy forgot to configure the browser. There we go. That's better. Okay. Oh wait.
That's not the right tab.
Awkward. that was awkward. Hold on. Let me take that off. Take that off the screen. Here, these guys right here, the real titans of PHP. Mr. Congdon is at PHP Tech in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is a almost live shot of the Brainiacs, and they're having a few refreshments. It's going on midnight there, so they're probably just getting started. I'm sure by the time the night's over, the six of them will have created some sort of new framework or something along that line.
You started a new business without you.
Exactly. Did I actually get that up on the screen? I did. Oh wait, what is this? What is this over here? Move that out the way. I don't know who that is. Why are these? Oh, I forgot we got to fix these windows, Thomas. These are our browser windows. So when we actually do articles on browsers, let's go ahead and fix that while we're live. Seems like a good idea. So
I don't see any problem with it.
So what have you been up to, Thomas?
I have been very busy, especially today, getting Windows configured and happy and running. And
are you full-blown Windows now?
I am on one of my machines. I am full-blown Windows. My other machine, not so much yet.
Hold on one second. Let me just update this. There we go. I'll look that up later, I guess.
I'm easy to put up with, I promise.
Oh man.
Windows, on the other hand, for all of the things that we've been reading about that are really great advancements in Windows, boy, there's just some heaping piles of garbage that I forgot about.
It's been forever for me. I mean, first thing, fresh Windows install, right? What was that like? How much junk did you have to put up with?
So Windows has gone the way of the cell phone and included as much garbage as they can find that's free just to throw in.
Even when you're just doing a fresh install from a disk and not
so did a totally custom fresh install, and that gave me prompts about my privacy settings and things like that. During the install, the touchpad did not work, so everything was done with tabbing and spacebar. But then once I got into it, Candy Crush and AutoCAD Draw and
really?
I mean, just a ton of pointless garbage stuff.
Antivirus still one of the installs?
No, they have a built-in antivirus now, which is essentially useless, but they keep telling you that you need to have it. It's very, very important. Setting up all of the removing Cortana as much as you can. You can't fully remove it. Fixing the start menu.
You're broadcasting on the Windows machine today, right?
Yes, this is the Windows machine. the shiny and new. Now, the thing I do like is that it's not just hitching and locking me out of the system for a minute at a time every time I close a tab, which is nice.
Probably beneficial.
Yeah, which was the reason for installing Windows in the first place, was that the system on Ubuntu had just degraded to the point of being unusable. But I also was apparently the music is still playing.
I took care of that. Yeah.
Okay.
How did you know that?
Daryl Hine in the Discord channel mentioned it.
Oh, good catch, Daryl. I just saw that actually and killed it.
The big thing for me was I wanted to play with WSL and developing Linux-based applications in Windows. So I actually have WSL installed now, and I can just go ahead into the Start menu and start Ubuntu, and it drops me right into an Ubuntu instance.
And what is WSL?
WSL is Windows System for Linux. It's their version of containerized Linux installations on Windows. It uses direct hardware access, so it's nice and fast, and it's just part of the Windows Store now. If you have the latest version of Windows, which is the May update, I believe, then you can jump in and from the actual Windows Store install Ubuntu, SUSE. Let me see, I got the list right here. Kali Linux, Ubuntu, WSL Arch Linux, Debian, SUSE Enterprise.
And you can install all these on top of each other, like they all live and play together.
Yeah, so they just open up as if they were a terminal, like an SSH terminal, into a Unix system, except that you can browse the Windows file system from there too. It gets mounted in the MNT directory.
Oh, nice.
And it doesn't include all of the GUI stuff. It's not compatible with all virtualization stuff, because it isn't true virtualization. That's why you have to go with the versions that are currently supported.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting there, and I could certainly install MySQL and have it running on my Ubuntu slice.
Really?
And, yeah.
Nice.
You can do full on all the CLI stuff that you could normally do, or most of the CLI stuff.
Do you have access to apt-get and all that? I mean, is that how you install stuff in those environments?
Yeah, I did an apt-get dist upgrade after installing it from the store.
No kidding.
It's pretty slick.
Mm.
So I'm going to see what it's like to develop inside Windows to Linux.
Mm-hmm.
Since the Windows drive, the C drive, is mounted in the shard, or whatever it should be called, I can just set that as my root directory for my web browser or server, and it should work. I'm excited. I'm definitely going to get into that further this week and see how far I can move over to Windows without actually being on Windows versions of executables.
Interesting. I just noticed, Daryl, again, thanks for letting us know the music was playing. Our little Discord window isn't updating right now, which is odd. I wonder why that's being a problem.
Nothing can be easy. You
yeah,
know that.
well, we're not gonna debug that right now, but yeah, nothing's ever easy. I wonder if I switch. Maybe I will debug it now. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter what bean we're on.
So there are the the normal Windows annoyances. It's a slow boot up, slow shutdown, and really slow updating. I mean,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Well,
you
what's
know,
the boot? What I mean, are you talking about the whole system is a slow boot, or just these terminals?
Windows is slow.
Oh, Windows. Okay, yeah.
If you know the Windows can't write to files that are being run currently,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Linux loads everything into memory and then runs it out of memory.
Okay.
So Windows, when it has to update, has to boot into a lower level kernel to install the system level changes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not very helpful. It is extraordinarily slow and annoying. The nice thing is that if I took anything like my Logitech receiver for my mouse or my webcam, Windows immediately recognized that it was a Logitech device and started pulling in the Logitech drivers and even some of the software for it.
Mm-hmm.
I have had to do very little as far as getting drivers to support things.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, one issue is that my mouse 4 and mouse 5 buttons don't do anything. Because it's running as a Synergy client, and apparently the Synergy server doesn't know how to talk to the Windows 10 client correctly and can't send those buttons across.
So it's a Synergy. The Windows machine is a Synergy client.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'll be switching that around. It'll be the Synergy server, and my Linux machine will end up being the client.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll resolve that issue.
So how much of your day is actually on the Windows machine? I mean, is that like your primary machine, or?
My primary machine for coding is still the old Linux machine.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my third screen activity is all on the Windows machine. So a lot of reading, let's say YouTube for educational purposes only, no entertainment whatsoever. I wouldn't do that.
No, of course not.
So it's always doing something. I'm always playing a video or I'm reading something off of it.
Mm-hmm.
It helps me keep my priorities separated.
Oh.
But it is more annoying than I thought it would be. There are more stupid things than I remembered. Like it wanted to control all of the map stuff. It wanted to auto download map information and send my GeoIP information to everybody who asked for it. And there's the privacy settings page is now like 4 pages of checkboxes long. And I guess somebody wrote an application that'll just turn off all the privacy garbage so that it'll just do the work for you. But there's at least 4 locations where privacy stuff is hidden away in settings. Anonymous, quote unquote anonymous usage data, and then just listening in on the microphone constantly and sending that to Microsoft.
We have another guest.
Hey, it's John.
What?
Are you guys in?
Oh, he's got that wonderful
boy.
hotel Wi-Fi. Awesome.
Oh no! What is this?
He looks fairly primed. He
It's got some red eyes for sure.
It's
I got
PHP
it, don't
Ugly
worry.
coast to coast.
What is going on?
How's
I
the
don't know,
conference so far?
Well, conference is over. I'm ready to go home. All right.
Oh, is the
so
conference over?
hopefully my audio is okay. We can test this and
Are you recording
What?
in Audacity?
I'm about to be. I didn't realize we were doing this. I didn't realize you guys had started already. I sent you a sample recording thinking, hey, I'll join. We'll try this out. I didn't know you guys had started.
No, we're live, man.
I like this. Well, hello. You guys have missed out on an amazing conference.
Tell us about it.
Make sure you're recording.
So I don't know. I am. I'm a professional. I might be drunk, but I'm a professional. Is that right? Sounds. So I think the conference overall, they did a great job. I don't know if they're going to do it again next year, but the whole multi-track thing where you could sit in on an API track, a professional PHP track, a security track has been interesting. I think it went off very well. I feel bad for the speakers because they spoke for hours and hours on end. There's some things they can tweak, but I think it was a great learning experience for both One for All events, for putting on the conference, PHP architects, and the speakers in general. But
did you? I'm just curious. Did you do a lot of moving around between subjects, or did you pretty much stick with one track?
So for the first day, I bounced between security and API. And the second day, I stuck in the API track. That was mostly because I was trying to squash a separate bug in code. So I kind of just sat in the same spot all day, trying to like diving deeper and deeper into this code, trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And it turned out to be a bug both in SendGrid, which I was trying to use. It was a package meant. So tracking down this error that both between the code base and the SendGrid API. And it just drove me nuts for probably 4 or 5 hours for a single day, trying to figure out what was going on. But I got to, while at the conference, I got to open a PR to an open source project to fix this issue.
Nice.
Yeah. And it turned out they were throwing an exception. So the error was because the code I use wasn't setting a text field in the mail, but the error being thrown by this library had an off by one error. So they were extending exception, and they were trying to throw a custom exception with their own data in the wrong position in the exception call. So it was very frustrating. Took me forever to solve, and it shouldn't have taken that long.
Very good. So all in all, the conference went well.
Yeah.
Good. What time's your flight tomorrow?
So it is now midnight here. I got to be out of here at like 5:30 or so. I have an 8 a.m.
you're
flight.
good.
Yeah, you're all set.
Yeah.
No, you can just have a hangover the whole flight and not worry about it.
Just stay up at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll sleep on the way home. It'll be good.
That's always my greatest fear
overall,
with conferences is sleeping through the flight.
This was the first tech where I've been to where the conference hotel was separate from the venue.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a 10 or 15-minute walk. It really worked out fine. It was good.
Cool.
Meeting up with old friends. Friend of the show, Chris Spruck, who's listened to every episode. I've got to hang out with him a few times, and actually just left hanging out with him at the hotel bar. Did
you give him stickers? You are a bad host.
I don't have stickers to give out.
You're a bad host.
We were so popular at the conference, you ran out.
Yeah, I ran out the very first day. Yep. That was it.
Oh, shit.
That's why. No, he was just telling me how he listens to the show, but normally it's like a week or two behind. And when we get stuck on people's names or whatever, he's like, I know that, and he's trying to help us answer the question, but it's pre-recorded.
He listens to this show, or does he listen to our other show?
This show,
Yeah, the good show or
okay.
the bad
PHP
show.
Ugly.
So say, yeah. Does he listen to this one or the one with quality? I'm not sure.
Is it the bad show or the badder show?
Speaking
they
of,
were all going to show up. I was having drinks with 5 people, and they were all going to come in and hang out with us, but they didn't. I said, if Eric said no.
I shared their picture on earlier, so you'll want to go back and watch that. It was a pretty funny lead-in. I think you'll appreciate it.
I got to check that out. Yeah, it was a good time. We missed you. We missed you both here. Thomas, you were supposed to be here. I don't know what happened. And Eric, you should have showed up anyway.
Yeah, I unfortunately I lost track of dates and times and forgot to put the pressure on my boss for the tickets. I was thinking.
Really? You were really going to go?
Yeah.
He said he was months ago.
Hmm.
And then we brought it up like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then he was like, crap, it's too late.
You got PHP World coming up. They're holding PHP World in October this year, not November. So it's about a month earlier. I don't know. I don't know where that's going to be. John, do you know if that's in the same place or?
I don't know if it's the same place. It's definitely still in that area.
Yeah. Oscar even said on the podcast that it's moving back to God, what's it called? Something Corners.
Premiere at Tyson's Corner.
Tyson's Corner. Yeah. So it's moving back to Tyson. That's a fun area. So that's cool. Maybe you should go to PHP World, Thomas.
Yeah, I might be down for that. Looks like they still got their call for speakers up too. They don't have the schedule yet.
Yeah, they actually just released call for papers. Yeah.
I've been encouraged multiple bit, so I got to come up with something. But I will definitely put something out there.
Very nice.
I think you.
Hey John, why don't you kill your camera and see if that helps your audio at all? I mean, it's fine with the recording, but
it might help my look too.
Oh yeah, you look much better.
We can't tell that you're eating meat secretly.
Yeah, your lighting is much clearer there. Awesome. Speaking of PHP Architect and the PHP podcast that John and I do, which we actually just released May's show a couple of days ago for the PHP Tech Conference. Hopefully, some people were able to listen to it. But we had a interview with Rob Allen, who's doing articles on serverless for PHP.
Did you record this one?
Yeah. So this one's already out. Oh no, this is actually the one I didn't record. Smart ass.
Right.
So this is the one that. Thank goodness I decided, hey, I don't normally do this, but today I'm going to go ahead and get a backup copy going. But I tell you what, after talking to him, I think I'm going to go full court pressure on doing some serverless architecture for like some immediate future.
Now, you should have been contacted by my boss about serverless.
Yeah. I'm working with him on that.
Actually, talking to a lot of people out here makes me want to go frameworkless too. Like, if you don't need a full-blown framework, it's just not. Why go that route? Why use Laravel if you don't need it?
But isn't that the argument for development in general? It's why use a framework if you don't need it? Don't the same arguments hold true well, it's not a matter of needing it. It's a matter of convenience. It's a matter of standards. It's a matter of having having a design pattern that
Yeah, for
you
me,
can
it's
bring in
about
other developers.
the speed and the ease of readability for other developers. I mean, development speed on Laravel, you can't deny it's faster than just raw
And
PHP.
the number of people I've talked to this week about Laravel who have used Laravel, and you got the people that love it, but most people are on the same page until he gets off his ass and accepts Semver and starts supporting it. It's just not going to flip and work. It's just a pain in the ass. You can't reliably upgrade. It's not enterprise ready, no matter what anybody says.
You
That's
can't
the
reliably
biggest feedback.
update even.
Yeah, that's the biggest feedback I'm getting right now is, you know, Laravel is great for a very small one-off, your little side hustle project, but it's not meant for anything beyond that. And it's frustrating the hell out of me. We've put so much of our focus on it for the past 6 years, 7 years, and that it's not meant for that right now.
It's not panning out. Yeah, I feel.
One
feel
would
that
say
way.
we did drown in the Kool-Aid there.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. And it's nobody's fault. Overall, it's a great framework until you
Who I
want
can
to
blame.
until you want to go up a single point version, which should not have this kind of downside to it.
Well, I do stand behind what I said earlier about Laravel. Was when we made the decision to go with Laravel, they were ahead of the pack with just about in every arena, adopting PSR, adopting Composer, adopting some of the patterns that were just kind of made sense. And they were so far ahead of the curve, and we were trying to make decisions of who are we going to use. It's like, well, why don't we use these guys who are cutting edge? But
Well,
it's not cutting edge anymore.
it wasn't just that it was cutting edge, though. I mean, at the time, Laravel 4.2 happened right as the PHP community said, "Slam on the brakes, start over. We're not doing PHP 6. Reset the whole environment, and we're just going to do it from scratch the right way this time." And things moved at lightning speed from there on. So it was the convergence of so many things at once with Composer, PHP 7, and then all of these design patterns that people knew but hadn't really integrated on a framework scale, at least not the way that Laravel ended up doing. And Laravel had Laracasts. I mean, we cannot ignore the quality of Laracasts. It brought my coding standards way, way up. I don't do Laracasts anymore. It doesn't have anything for me anymore. But it was introducing me to concepts daily that made programming completely a different world for me.
And I think I think that's a good barometer of the community in general, because if you look at Laracasts, those when he was coming out with these new design patterns and these new workflows, and they were so refreshing to see. You haven't seen that in a while with Laracast. Laravel itself, where they were deploying with Composer. You installed the framework with Composer. It was when the PSRs were coming out, they were quickly making modifications and adopting to the PSRs. But now, over the last couple of years, Laravel has gotten this mentality of, well, we're just going to do it our way. Screw this. We're tired of the haters. Anybody who's a critic is a hater, and we're just going to do it our way. And they've just kind of, I honestly feel like they've done the Laravel community a disservice in certain fields like versioning and sticking to a proper versioning release cycle, that it's starting to be, it's very difficult to to continue to promote it, as hard as that is to say. And so, to your point, John, with the serverless stuff, like I said, I'm doing a full court press, I think, over the next couple of months on serverless. I think that not only am I going to focus heavily on it, I very well may end up even pivoting on my language of choice. I will initially use PHP because that is the language I am most comfortable with. But if all we're doing is kicking out these functions, these endpoints, why not write it in a language that is more conducive to the serverless architecture? So something like a Node.js is specifically what I'm looking at. I was thinking about Python, but Node really makes sense because Node is like what all the serverless architectures kind of promote and natively support. So
are you looking to redirect? Are you just using it as a proxy back to another container, or are you trying to do all the work within the Lambda function?
So, good question. So Rob Allen mentioned, and his article was a two-part article. His first part was basically talking about serverless architecture and Bref specifically, which is kind of the glue that allows you to deploy PHP on serverless. We'll put the links to the show note in the show notes. It's Bref, BREF. Next month will be part 2 of his article, where he's actually writing an application in which he's consuming Flickr APIs, leveraging S3 and a few other things, and creating his own endpoints. And for things like that, John, you're familiar with one of the projects I'm working on, which is basically us taking a request, us querying multiple services, multiple APIs from multiple services, and then getting a response back and sending that back to the mobile device. Something like that, I'm thinking that is probably a better suited Node.js application for me. So I don't know. I'm not, like I said, this idea is new to me. I mean, it came to me ever since talking to Rob, the more I looked into Bref, the more I started looking into the tutorials on serverless and getting going with serverless. Because I had deployed serverless apps following tutorials in the past, and one of them happened to be a Laravel app. But this time, I really want to get it done correctly. I want to understand what I'm doing and be able to repeat it time and time again. And the more I look into it, just the more I'm just thinking, yeah, it would be nice to do in PHP, but that's not really the right solution for that. So I don't know where I'm at with that yet.
Well, when I was developing my GraphQL application,
asking us our real thoughts.
What was that, John?
Yeah, John, you go first.
Very poor Wi-Fi. We have a friend of the show, Daniel Abernathy, on Twitter asking us if I really think that it's only good for hobby projects. And I just want to reiterate, I've talked to multiple people who will not and cannot use Laravel in their production environments, mostly because of the lack of Semver adoption and the fact that you can point release update backwards breaking. So for us, we've talked about it numerous times on the show, but I've talked to many people this week over the same crap. It's the same thing of we've looked into this and we're not going to put it into production because it really all comes down to Semver. If you would follow Semver and not have back breaking changes between point releases, if you had these backward things in place, but major updates, it was stuck less. It was documented, but just between a small point upgrade, backwards changing breaks, backward
Right.
breaking changes.
And let me just reiterate some of the points there, Daniel. We are heavily invested in Laravel. Our development shop, we really went down the Laravel path. We sold it to a couple clients. Sold the idea of Laravel for some major projects. We are highly invested in Laravel, and we're speaking to you from a point of where we have felt the pain and we have felt the struggle, and it's just it's it's just getting difficult. It's just getting really really difficult. Um, you know,
Yeah,
And that's not even
you put it
accounting
so well there, way better than I did.
that's not even accounting for the sweeping changes like removing all of the form helpers, deprecating and then removing all of the helper methods for
arrays
the
and strings.
facades. And I mean, it's just some of the decisions, they happen so fast and they're so bizarre. There's not really any way to defend them other than to say, well, he gets to do it because it's his.
Right, and those are the two big changes that need to happen. It not being enterprise ready, we're willing to live with. We made that decision when we picked Laravel that we knew it wasn't enterprise ready. The Semver issue, just from a big application implementation where we have several Laravel applications deployed, not being able to adhere to Semver is a major problem for us because it causes us, it really slows down that upgrade path. And then to Thomas's point, how things are removed or implemented could really use better vetting. Like this one person making a decision at a whim just because they feel like it's been time. It's hard, dude. I wish it wasn't. I'm talking to you as a friend, Daniel. I know who you are. You know me. I wish it wasn't.
Yeah,
I
and
was.
usually when we talk about a benevolent dictator for life, we think of somebody like Linus Torvald, who prefers the status quo, who wants things to be maximum stability, and if you can't validate a new feature or removal, then he's just gonna just wave you away. He doesn't want to hear it. And what we have with Laravel is the exact opposite, which is it's mine, so I get to do whatever I want, and I want to play with all of the latest toys. And that's what's really hurting me every time we try to upgrade. Something's been removed, and it's now relied upon by somebody else to maintain it. There's a new feature that breaks all sorts of backwards compatibility because he didn't think anybody still used that. And it's really treated like it's his toy. And if you don't want to play with it, go find a different playground.
Yeah.
But then to call it enterprise in the same sentence is to just completely ignore the reality of being a framework developer.
Yeah, and I know it sounds like we're hating on Laravel, and that's part of the problems. Again, if you're a critic of anything Laravel, you're automatically labeled as hater, and we're not. I mean, I was probably one of the biggest Laravel fans. Did multiple streams with Taylor, with Jeffrey Way, with Adam Wathan, where had a whole Laravel user group. It just it hurts, man. I mean, it hurts. It hurts bad. It's just the reality of it.
At this point in time, with the people I've talked to, Laravel has looked more at like, if you need something quick and dirty to get up and running, or you are new to the community or new to programming, Laravel is your easy way in. But as you get better, you learn more. And I really do believe it comes down to the Semver thing, because you learn how these breaking changes are so bad for your code. You look for better options, and it sucks.
Well, and not just bad for your code, but they're bad for your business. And
Yeah.
if your code can recover, one of the constant arguments I see is that a simple string replace can fix all this stuff in 2 seconds, and that you can just go to Laravel Shift and have your entire application upgraded for you for $5. And for me, that's not the problem. The problem is the consistency and the predictability. If I come back to the Laravel environment after being away for a year, will I even know what I'm looking at? Because I haven't done that. I've been knee deep in Laravel for 5 years, 6 years now. But if I went away for 1 year, I'm not sure that I would be able to come back real easily. I don't know that it would look anything the same.
I think between what you said and what John said, I mean, you guys pretty much hit it. I think one of the things that really keeps the hype going with Laravel are these development agencies that slam out an application but don't have to maintain it. Like they pump out these applications, they sell them off, and they move on to the next application, right? They're not living with these application year over year over year, release over release over release, like we've been doing. We're the ones that are in those trenches and are feeling that pain. I think if I worked for, if our business model was to, wham bam, thank you ma'am, here's your app, leave us alone, call us when you want us to develop you a new one, that would be great. I would love Laravel. Laravel would be perfect for that. But it's that legacy. It's, the older the application gets, it's difficult to carry it along with you. It's a struggle. Wow, we haven't released our Laravel hostility in a while, man. Jeez.
All right. Well, I can change the subject real quick. Thomas, let's play a game. Who is old? Yeah, who is older? Chris Harchess, grumpy programmer, or our good buddy Eric Van Johnson?
Eric, definitely.
Why would you say that? That's so mean. Everything is correct. Why are you so mean?
Well, because Eric last week was wearing his Made in '69 shirt, and endlessly talking about his own birthday.
Yeah, it was me talking about it. That's right.
Actually, Chris was older than I thought he was. He told us today. I sat in his API track all day, and he's 48.
Okay, but that's not fair because he's Canadian, and they don't age the same as.
You're right. 48 Canadian is like 54 American.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost 1-1, but not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. No, but Eric, I do have to say that, again, sitting in his track all day, I had a couple more points to bring up to you, which you're not going to like. He is a heavy Vim user, which you and I both agree on.
Yay!
But one of his major points was pick an editor, stick to it, and master it. Don't bounce around from editor to editor.
And screw him. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, now, to be fair, Eric bounces around from implementations of Vim to implementations of Vim. When he's in VS Code, he's in Vim mode in VS Code.
I mean, we all are, but it's still within an editor. So Chris has gone with PHP Storm from everything I gathered today in his talks. But his point was, don't go from PHP Storm to VS Code to .NET or whatever you're going to go to. It's
I think my whole thing with VS Code is I'd like to have a free editor out there that I'm familiar enough with where I'm comfortable recommending it to new developers or developers who can't afford PHP Storm. I mean, that's really kind of a burden I carry for myself. It's like, I want to make sure that I don't have this expectation that people can buy the same tools that I buy to do things. I do the same thing with my database tool. I've moved on to a tool that is you're required to buy. There's not a free version that tables, but I still check out each SQL Pro, and I still keep my eye on a couple of others, just so I have good recommendations for other developers who might not have the budget.
Well,
But
you do love your toys.
I do. I do believe I have said in the past, and I will say it again. If you're making a living doing PHP development, invest in PHP Storm.
Mhm. You have said that. I do agree. It's more that I know you like to bounce around, but I don't think you've ever really bounced around more in reality as far as a work environment. You bounce around to try things, but not necessarily actual work, right?
Right. Yeah, it's usually my little projects on the weekend. I'll try a new editor from time to time, but yeah.
Very cool.
I've got some news.
What kind of news?
I am taking over the Peak PHP meetup with new member Brian.
Oh,
Wait, I
was
thought
the
Brian.
old number?
I thought Brian was.
Old Brian is still moving. There is a new Brian. He is the one I sat down with. He's the one I sat down with at length, talking about how crazy it was that Laravel didn't support Semver. So he and I are going to be taking over Peak PHP. We've got the Facebook page and all that stuff handed over for administrative privileges, and
Nice.
yeah, I guess we're moving that one forward.
You sound excited.
I am. I'm a busy man. Three teenage children is more than anyone is supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, then you haven't met Tim Lytle.
well, I'm not saying other people don't do crazy things.
Well, I think he's up to 27 kids or some craziness.
Is he Mormon?
No, he's not.
Is he vegan?
No, he's not. But he's made fun of me this whole trip for it. I'm just saying.
Good man.
By the way,
Tim.
have I mentioned that I'm vegan?
Good man.
I realized I've not been doing my duty by mentioning it every 3 minutes.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to watch the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the forehead tattoo that said "vegan and proud" was a bold move, but since you're your own boss, you don't ever have to worry about hiring like that.
No, yeah, you're good. Yeah.
So last week at the end
Actually,
of the podcast,
on this trip, real quick, I learned that Tim will not be at PHP World because he is having another child in October. So congratulations, Tim. We're happy for you.
At this point, can't his oldest child just deliver the new child? I mean,
No, we did clarify that he doesn't let the kids into the birth room.
Okay.
Although he
You're
did
using
have
the
a
term
he did
kids
have a
loosely.
friend that was in homeschooling that went through that, and so he knows not to do that with his kids.
Mm.
Sorry,
If
Tim.
if he ever does a presentation on rate limiting, I'm not going.
I knew I asked him the wrong question during his API talk.
How do you deal with rate limiting? Oh, you don't? All right. Last week, I realized I had been recording at the wrong bit rate again.
Silly
So
Thomas.
my file was like a minute and a half shorter than everyone else's, and I had to edit it every 10 minutes again. But then I was met with the pleasant surprise that we've upgraded to the new version of Simplecast when I was done.
Simplecast 2.0.
And wow, what a turn of events they went through. Boy, they just took a nice interface and pooped all over it.
Right. I didn't realize it was actually going to change our website too. Actually, let me cut over to that way I'm doing this. So I go to phpugly.com now. You'll see we have a nice new website, which a little disappointed in. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, but it's there. There are some cool things. You can now embed our show. I know everybody's been asking us, Eric, I love your show, but I really want to embed it into my website. Well,
I want other people to
now
know
you
I listen
can.
as well.
Yeah.
The quarters of people.
Yeah. So now you can embed it into the website. What you can't do, however, is just have one embed for the latest episode, which is disappointing. So it's one of the feature requests open with Simplecast, but yep, new Simplecast. That was fun.
They made it super simple.
Nope, they made it about 10 times more difficult. Instead of having one page where all of the settings for the episode you want to release are, it is 2 pages or 3 pages split across half of the screen on each side.
But don't you just upload the episode? We have our person do all the note taking stuff.
I used to just upload the episode and set the release date and mark it as published, and several of the terms have changed. So the idea of publishing date is now something else.
Yeah.
And you can't set a publishing date until the episode audio file has been uploaded and processed.
Mhm.
So I have to sit there and wait for it to process for 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there's like, it's a nicer looking interface until you have to start using it. And once you start using it, it is just awful.
Tim, you can come down to my room. I just saw your tweet.
Wear the robe, Tim. Wear the robe.
Or
Tim,
don't.
you don't have to.
Oh my goodness. What is recast? What does that do?
See, I've been doing my job while I was here. I recruited new listeners. That's all I got to say.
I'm not sure what recast does.
Oh, Tim would love this story. You want one more funny
It's
story
like a
about
clipping system.
Absolutely. Give us a funny
enough
story.
with Simplecast. I got a funny story about me. You can
Okay.
laugh at me.
No, we
So-
laugh at you
We
regardless.
were doing that before you even logged in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
So I went to dinner with a few people, including Tim, the other night. And don't ask me why, but we ended up in the same restroom. And
Seems
In
like
the same stall.
Seems like you're burying
I-
the lead a little there.
Same
I ended-
stall. I asked you not to ask.
I ended up in the stall, and all of a sudden I couldn't get out. I was stuck in the stall. I could not figure out how to open the freaking door. I finally, Tim was laughing at me.
I'm just gonna say, ever since John has gone vegan, his memory of how to do some of the simple things, like where he parked his car, leaving his bag behind, elevators going up or down, he's been struggling with a lot of
No.
these decisions.
Well, and then he's lost a lot of muscle mass. Apparently, can't get that latch up.
Tim brought up a good point. It was my own escape room. I just couldn't solve the puzzle.
So, you have to flush the toilet, put your hand in there, and there's a key that pops out.
See,
That's not
I
a
missed
key.
that part.
That's not. Oh gosh,
Why am I sharing all this with you?
I don't know.
Something about alcohol. I don't know.
No,
Alcohol makes it all easier.
something about being
GitHub.
exhausted. I got to be up in like 4 hours.
No, you're good. You forget
you're all
it's only 9:40 here in California, and that's where you'll be landing. So you
Oh.
got to remember to keep the time difference in mind.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you're just avoiding jet lag.
There
Exactly.
you go.
You're playing it the smart way. GitHub has a new root level file called funding.yaml.
What?
Have you guys?
I have not seen this.
This is awesome.
What is this crazy word you say?
So their new thing is that this will add sponsorship links and buttons to your GitHub page. So if you have a funding.yaml button or a funding.yaml file, then GitHub will parse that and display the appropriate buttons for how to sponsor the project or pay for, development support, or not development support, but sponsorship. This is the sudden terrifying appearance of John on camera.
He's not on camera.
He moved my image, so I had to you moved my image. I had to pop back. That's all right. Don't pay attention. Funding that YAML. Let's keep this going. I got to go to bed.
So the GitHub sponsors, there's a page on how to associate your YAML or your project with different sponsor projects like Patreon. There's a bunch I've never heard of before, but it is a big move forward for the open source community. And sort of acknowledging that, yeah, open source is free, but needs money.
I'm actually surprised they didn't take this in a different direction of GitHub collecting money on behalf of content creators, just kind of like Patreon does, and taking a small cut of it as they pass the money on to those creators.
I think there would be riots in the street if Microsoft had started collecting money for people for sponsorships like that.
Good point.
Yeah,
and I think that's an industry that
Microsoft
Microsoft doesn't want to get into.
Yeah.
Patreon's big, but Microsoft, they're a giant. I don't think they want to get into the collecting microtransactions.
GitHub
what
went through a
stops
style update, huh? Because I noticed this earlier. I was looking at some docs on GitHub. I'm like, they have a new like minimal looking interface now.
I do not see it.
To help stuff. Like this is not what GitHub help looked like before. This is all very, very clean looking. It's I don't remember it looking like this. Like, I'm pretty sure they have new fonts and stuff.
Well, if you're interested in a dark theme for GitHub, this week I learned about a Chrome extension stylus, and within there you can include themes, including a GitHub dark theme. So it basically just replaces the GitHub CSS with a dark theme.
Ooh, I do like my dark themes.
I learned that from Andy Snell.
Well, thank you, Andy.
Yeah, learning all sorts of stuff while I'm out here. Should do this more often.
You need to throw that in the Trello board, John, so we can add it to the show notes. John's like,
I'm not.
guys, I'm going to bed.
He can't find his computer.
I'm trying to go to
I've got one last thing. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't doom and gloom, but it is doom and gloom.
Oh, you were doing so well.
Game of Thrones has ended.
Well, I haven't watched the last like 3 seasons.
Yeah, the audience reviews are pretty unanimous. This season was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I've read that a lot.
The cinematography, the acting, above and beyond. Really beautiful, really well acted. Great production design, except for the several times that Starbucks cups got left on set. But the story, man, just got murdered. And
okay. That's funny, because isn't it about killing, like murdered? I see what you did there. But
while watching it, I enjoyed it and I was happy with it. But when I started trying to explain sort of why the books were fundamental to the first seasons to my wife and how that shaped the story, I started getting more and more upset to the point where I was just yelling at her, why did they do this? Why did they do this?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, reflecting on the whole thing, it's just been a god-awful season. It was really a mistake.
I want to throw one more thing out there, if you don't mind me cutting you off, unless you were going somewhere with that.
That was it.
Okay, yeah, don't care. Haven't watched it. I know there were some ice people. I think Wolverine showed up, and that was it. That somebody snapped a finger and they all died.
It's about right, yeah.
So we were talking about PHP Storm earlier. I heard an interesting theory, and I would like for you guys to take this journey with me, and then we'll wrap up the show. We talked about PHP Storm, and again, you're making money doing web development. Look to invest in a tool like PHP Storm. It's worth it. PHP Storm is created by a company called JetBrains. And JetBrains, they have a whole line of language-specific editors. They have some other stuff out there, some other tools, TeamCity and some other things, but their bread and butter are their editors for language. So they have Python, which is PyCharm. They have PHP. They have a JavaScript one, which is just called Web, I think, or something like that. But they're also the people behind the Android suite as well. So the Android development tool is basically JetBrains implementation focused on Android. So this is nothing new. This is the way life has been for a while. Well, a couple years ago, I think it's been a couple years now, JetBrains released its own language called Kotlin. And of course, they created an editor for Kotlin as well. And Kotlin's sort of like a Java replacement, right? Like works. It's basically written like my understanding of it. I haven't written any Kotlin, but if you know Java, you can write Kotlin. It's kind of like the same syntax. It plays very well with Java, and it was targeted for developers of mobile apps, specifically Android apps, who wanted to have another platform to develop on. Well, an interesting news was made. Google now says Kotlin is now the preferred language for Android app development. Kotlin is now the preferred language for Android app development. This is very interesting because if you know the history of Google in Android development, they did this on Java. That was like the core platform for Android development. And the moment Oracle took over Java, they've basically been suing Google nonstop. They continue to sue Google. So Google appears to be moving to Kotlin and promoting Kotlin development for Android. So now, the big question, how long do you think it's going to take before Google buys JetBrains?
Oh.
Is this Price is Right rules?
I mean,
One day.
I mean, over under. Will it be this year? Will it be next year? Will it be 6 months? Let's do a month thing. Let's do six months, or I think it's going to be within the next year. Like, why wouldn't they? This would give Google a whole line of developer tools suite, a suite of developer tools that they could all. I don't know where JetBrains is based. I don't know if it's a U.S. company. I heard it's not a U.S. company, but I don't know where JetBrains is based out of. But I gotta imagine Google's got to have the money to purchase them. I don't know how much money they make. Like I said, we in the development world, everybody's very familiar with JetBrains, but $100 a year from a couple of developers, and then Google coming in and just saying, "Yeah, you know what? We'll just take everything." Especially if they could.
Thomas, what do you think?
The internet seems to be asking the same question. I don't know what Google's investment is. I mean, acquisitions on this kind of scale are more complicated than just like, hey, they should buy it. If Google is saving massive amounts of money by allowing JetBrains to be its own company and just buying the product for the Android Studio from them, then there might be a cost-benefit measurement there we're just not seeing. where Google says, yeah, we don't want to manage this company. We just want to buy their product and give it to other people to use. And it's not like the opportunity is going to slip through their fingers. If Microsoft announces they're going to buy JetBrains, then naturally Google is going to have a counter offer for them. But I don't see the benefit for Google quite yet.
They would own the Kotlin language. They would own the language.
So that's a good question, is who would own Kotlin? And it's very possible that it's an open source language.
I don't think it is. I don't know enough about Kotlin, whether it is.
Yeah, Apache 2.0.
Okay.
So even if Microsoft bought JetBrains, Kotlin would still be free.
Google, not Microsoft.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that if Microsoft bought JetBrains from underneath Google, Google doesn't have to worry about what they're dealing with Java.
It's fine that it continues to be open source, but you would have control over the direction of it. You could then really start to make it very specific to Android development. You know, you have complete control over the direction of that project.
I don't know that that's true. I think as an open source project, Google could very easily just say Kotlin 2 is our Kotlin and deal with it. I'd have to look. I
mean that would be an option as well, but they would own the project.
And then you don't have to worry about telling all your developers, hey, you have to move to Kotlin 2 to continue working with us. If Microsoft bought
I also have no doubts that Microsoft has contracts with JetBrains about this kind of problem specifically already.
Take 13 months.
13 months? Okay. I'll take
you've got 12 and under, I got 13 and over, and Thomas is out.
Oh, I gotcha. Oh, so you went the whole Price is Right on me. You just did $1 more. You bastard.
I was trying to get him to commit to some number so I could figure out where I was gonna go, but
yeah, I think a year would be a long time. I would honestly not be surprised if within the next 3 months we see it. I would not be surprised. But yeah, I think a year would be a safe bet. So very cool. We'll see what happens.
We'll talk again June next year.
I mean, I can tell you that the Google developers
Thomas, you had your
contributing.
You had your opportunity, Thomas. Thomas is going to come in now and say 15 months, 14 months. John said 13.
I don't think Kotlin has anything to do with it, though. I think if Microsoft was interested in buying an IDE developer, or if Google was interested in an IDE developer, then it would look different than just announcing that their preferred language is Kotlin.
But let's not worry about Kotlin for a second. What's been one of the biggest criticisms of Google over the last couple of years is how they've started to disconnect with the developers who made them so popular, the developers who used all their APIs, how Google's been distancing themselves from the development group. What better way to reconnect with them than to have the editors of all the languages that everybody uses?
I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a good spot, though. Good spot to wrap it up. We got some heavy criticism already on the show on Twitter. People pretty much overwhelmingly hate our show. Good.
That's good headline.
3.
153. I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
And before anyone cuts off their audio, I need a clap check.
Was this like a super... Ready? Go.
3.
Clap check. 3, 2, 1.
Was this like a super long episode? Jeez. What
Hour
time did you
10?
guys start?
Hour 10, man.
Oh. So you guys were only on 15 minutes more than me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought you just were bailing on us, so we just went ahead and we were talking about it.
I said I was planning on being here.
I told Thomas that. I said,
Well, we were waiting on you. We were talking about it in the Slack channel.
Well, I was out to dinner. I was talking with people. I thought we were waiting until midnight.
stop having a social life, man. What's wrong with you?
Sorry.
How
I'm
do I
sorry.
see tweets at PHP Ugly?
Look for at PHP Ugly. I don't know. Just search for PHP Ugly. Does that work?
Yeah, I found him. Yeah. Let's see.
Oh man. So cool, man. I'm glad you had a good time, John.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was good. Now I gotta go read Tim's message. What did he say?
Hearing John Congdon try to retell alleged stories about my life. Life.
You know what's funny to me?
Penguins wearing hats?
Is that just talking about Laravel is controversial enough that he felt the need to redact himself.
Who did?
What?
Daniel
Oh.
Abernathy.
Oh, Daniel. Yeah, he didn't call Laravel out by name. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's dangerous to do that on Twitter. You'll get fucking bombarded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he seems to be having better luck with it. He says he has a monolith application, older application that he's been running for a while. He doesn't see the same problems that we've been seeing, and apparently everybody else has been seeing.
Well, I think it depends. If you're not using some of the things that get deprecated or removed out from underneath of you, then it doesn't matter. You're like, oh, well, that doesn't affect me. No big deal.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you have a safe journey home, Mr. Congdon.
Yes.
Mr. Tinkersley, why are you flicking us off? What the hell? How did I miss that?
He was standing
Is that
right
the
next to you.
chair?
Yeah. Are you
I
watching?
know.
You gotta watch the beginning of the show, man. Here, I'll send you what you need to watch. I'm actually really proud. I was telling Thomas, I'm like, I had this, I wanted to use it. He's like, oh yeah, no, we're using that.
Tim, I'm sorry if I screwed anything up. I apologize to Tim today for our Patreons, which we didn't promote because I don't know why. I keep talking.
Oh shit. Yeah, we've got to do better at our Patreon stuff.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. So I screwed up and I made a faux pas today with my friend Tim.
We're still streaming, John. Do you want me to cut it off?
You didn't give a reach around?
Hence me saying while we're still recording, I'll say this. No, it was before lunch, and we all teased him because he's a good guy and he's got a lot of kids, and so every time somebody says the number of kids he has, we all increase it. So I think he's up to like 730 kids or something at this point. And as I'm walking away from him, I say, "There's a way to fix that," but we're walking away like I meant to trying to be funny. Like there's a way to stop pregnancies from happening, and I know he's heard it 1,000 times because he's got like 750 kids at this point. But I felt bad for what I said. So I went up and I apologized for it. And he laughed and thought it was funny. But
Not everyone got the vasectomy
I realized-
pressure that I gave you.
yeah, but I was already getting a vasectomy, and you were still trying to encourage me to get one. I'm like, I've got this. I know how to get a vasectomy.
Yeah, but
Well,
I carried it for
I thought it was
months.
inappropriate. He kept wanting to examine you. I'm like, Thomas, I mean, you really should have a license for that.
I've got a license. It's one of those things you just download a form from the internet and print it out.
John, go back to a minute 12, a minute 13, and start watching like the next 5 minutes.
Got it.
Even that's my favorite part.
All right, I'm gonna go get some sleep. I got to be up early.
No, you don't. You're fine. All right, man. Take it easy.
All right,
All right,
see you soon.
Good night.
Bye.
All right, to everybody who has been listening, we appreciate all of you. We really do. And this is how we actually end the show. You guys never get to hear all that wonderful chitter chatter on the audio podcast because we're so polite to cut it out. But when you watch us live, you get extra content.
Now, I do. I want to say, if Daniel is still listening, we have many episodes about what the word enterprise means, and we generally come to the conclusion that enterprise does not mean the size of or scale of an application. Enterprise in the namesake of a framework is support, predictability, and SLAs.
I don't think he was arguing the enterprise stand. Do you?
There was a second comment that he said,
okay.
and I run it in what I would call an enterprise environment, but I would not call it one of our enterprise tools. We have plenty of websites that we have SLAs through that process our data and encode video, and if something goes down, we call them and it's back up, or we get refunds. I would not say Laravel is enterprise in that same way.
Yeah, we beat that topic to death. So if you're ever interested in our thoughts on that, Daniel, feel free to ping me.
Yeah, listen to our first 152 episodes.
yeah, exactly. That's definitely one of those ones we should have earmarked, where when people ask us, we just say, hey, look, go listen to the show. This show right here.
This one is the one where we cry.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right, thank you to all our Patreons and everybody still listening. And Eric will have this one edited up for you quick because he decided to call John in the middle of the podcast.
That's going to be interesting to try to cut in.
Well, I need to edit it actually because I need to see if my changes have synced up correctly.
I love that. Matter of fact, let me add this to the folder right now before I forget. I have a tendency to do that.
Windows, man.
Look, I'm telling you, in about a month, you're just going to be all about Windows.
I will. It's just that 6 hours of configuration just to make sure that it's not being shitty it should have been expected. I forgot about it though.
Yeah.
That out of the box, Windows 10 is an enormous pain in the ass.
I am curious how your life is going to go with that.
Hopefully, it shouldn't really change.
I mean, in theory, right? Especially if you spend a lot of your time at the command line and you have your editors. In theory, it should not really be that big of a deal.
I keep forgetting to ask you, Eric.
I'm still streaming, so do I want to stop streaming?
Sure, it doesn't matter. You and John went through like a dozen smartwatches in a 3-year period at one point. Do you have any old? Do you have any old ones that are just sitting in a drawer?
That still work?
Yeah.
No, I pretty much wear them till they die. Matter of fact, my last one just died. My Moto just died. I just got this fossil a couple weeks back.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Fossil as well, and I like it. I'm a fan of the. Let me just get this file here. I'm a fan of the circle face,
Yeah.
and the Moto, which was the first one with the circle face, and the reason I had purchased it. It actually had a bar at the bottom, which was black, which apparently they've seemed to overcome now. Our Fossil has where now the whole circle is a screen, so that's nice. But yeah, why do you ask?
I've settled on an easier hobby than the ones that I've been trying to get into lately, which is just things that I think are cool and buying them. Which I don't know why it never occurred to me before that I could just do that.
You know what? I mean, unless you have a specific, you think you have a specific need for it, smart watches probably aren't worth the money. If you're like the fact that I'm a developer and I spend 90% of my time in front of computer screens, I can easily not have a smartwatch. I just happen to like watches, so it's just something. Well, I enjoy watches. But.
So this is part of my new obsession, which is things that I very specifically don't need. So I've been building out this backpack, and it has everything you could need in the case of an emergency. And whenever I get in my car, I just put it in my car with me. But it means lots of stuff that might only ever get used one time. But it also has lots of nerdy stuff, like my lockpick set and my security tool bit set.
Is there any legal thing about carrying around the lockpick set?
So depends on the state. There's a thing called a prima facie, and prima facie means that it's legally defined as intent by possession.
Okay.
So if you have a lockpick set in, I think New York, it's prima facie, where
so
they say
basically like burglary tools, right? Like
not just that. So they're always considered burglary tools, but they're only considered illegal if you're caught committing a burglary using them.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
how about if you're suspected of committing a burglary?
So you would have to be found guilty of burglary for that charge to have any validity. If you were found innocent of the burglary, then they would have to drop that charge of burglary tools. But there are states that are prima facie or prima fascia, I don't know how to pronounce it, that say just by having it, you intended to commit a crime.
Yeah.
So you have to look up the state-by-state rulings on it. But for the most part, people are more afraid of lockpicks than they should be.
I mean, I don't know why anybody would be afraid of them. I mean, at the end of the day,
I mean, afraid of having them in public.
Like colors scare me more. Having them in public. Oh, I see. So, you're saying somebody who has it as far as carrying it around.
Right. So I feel in Colorado, after reading the laws, I feel comfortable carrying them around in my bag in my car. That's totally fine because I'm not going to be out committing any burglaries. And I can easily explain why I have them because I'm in the security and penetration testing industry. So for me, it's not a concern. But if you're in a position where somebody might think you're doing something illegal, then it goes straight from not illegal all the way up to felony instantly. And that's the problem. It doesn't go misdemeanor, larceny. It just goes from not a felony to felony.
All right. Okay, again, thanks everybody for listening. I will be killing the stream at this point. Do appreciate it. Let us know if you want more of this. Feel free to hit us up on Twitter. Blah, blah, blah. Like us. thumbs up us. No, don't put your thumbs
Subscribe.
up.
Hit the bell icon.
Do all that social media stuff for us. We'd appreciate it. All right, peace out.